You're not allowed to know what goes on in labs. I like to translate it as, you're going to lose your mind when you find out. You sort of, you pan right to look at the gate, and the gate is blurred out. What things do we want to hear from Moby? So he's just pow, straight away, really professional, eloquent, philosophical, deep. Because this actual beagle comes around the corner, and he's accompanied by a customs officer.
Oh, God.
But they're born innocent, and they're born right there. This is death row.
Indulging the jury for next.
All right, people, sorry to keep you. Good to see you. Oh, no, it's nearly a full room. Okay. Right, as usual, we are doing things for the first time. We seem to be doing that a lot. And this is the first as well, doing a talk to a room like this. And also our little interview corner over there is also a first. That's the first time we set everything up, first time we really used our camera properly. Yeah, bear with us. I'm a little bit nervous.
You're fine, Piaz. You've got
I've got my. I thought at the same time I'll show you. I'll show you what my computer screen, which is where I live, basically. I'll show you what that looks like. So can you see? Unfortunately, another thing that's not on the script was that everything's gone big resolution. So that's another learning curve. So we're making a documentary. Can everyone hear me all right? At the back?
Yeah, louder.
A bit louder. Oh my God. I'm naturally quiet, so I really feel like I'm shouting. But anyway, hopefully you'll hear me. So we're doing a documentary about animal testing. And as a focus, we're going to be focusing on beagles as a species, and also a specific area of animal testing, which is toxicology. Toxicology is basically seeing how poisonous substances are before they're released to the public. And it's particularly disturbing. We've chosen those two things for a reason. Obviously, beagles are very relatable. They're cute. They're very docile as well. That's why they're chosen for animal testing, because they're very gentle dogs, and it takes a lot to get a beagle to bite you, unfortunately for them. So we're not. We're looking at animal testing, but. Hang on, sorry. We're getting all sorts of nonsense popping up. Yeah, obviously we're covering animal testing. We're obviously, and doing another focus is the secrecy around it, because it's really well wrapped up and not many people know about it. So exposure is everything. Let me just skip along my own notes here. And it involves big industries, big money. A lot of legislation, regulation. It's domestic, it's international, it's global. Everything's tied together. So it's a big one. On its own, making a film about animal testing would be a huge undertaking, and we're doing it for the first time because we're first-time filmmakers. And the reason that happened is because. Well, we'll get to that in a bit. I'll just follow the script. Who we are. So we actually have an animal sanctuary. We run the Base Vegan Retreat and Animal Sanctuary in Bristol, and we've been open there as an animal sanctuary for about 10 years. But we've done accommodation and guest house for much longer than that. Yeah, this is becoming a bit of a strap line. We're first-time filmmakers taking on the heavyweight subject of animal testing. That kind of says it all. So it's going to be an interesting journey to follow. We're learning every day. Every day is new things coming up. But we have accumulated some significant relevant experience because we're getting on a bit now, and we've been around and we've done a few different things. And when we thought about doing a film, we looked. We thought this could be something that we could do, because we've seen a lot of films made by kind of people who are quite new to filmmaking, but it's basically storytelling, so they say. Our angle is secrecy, I've said before. It's the Achilles heel of a giant. We speak to vegans quite a lot at our place, and they haven't heard of Camp Beagle, and they really don't know very much about animal testing at all. So it's just something that's kind of not really out there. You've got like this, if there's a Venn diagram, you've got veganism here and all the animal around food. Food, animals for food is here. you've got this animal testing thing, which is kind of a separate world. And then there's this small overlap where, where people who are vegan and that still see animal testing as kind of like a thing on the side, like a sideline issue. But actually, when you can look at the numbers and say, well, obviously there's a lot more numbers involved in animals for food, and animal testing relatively there's less. But if you just wanted to compare like life for those animals, then in animal testing, you forget about the lifetime, you forget about the birthing, the breeding, that raising period where they're raised in isolation. And then they go to testing, which is a repetitive process. It's not one day. It can be consecutive days, and ultimately they will be killed. Animals don't leave alive from labs in the UK. There's no rehoming or anything like that. It's not tested, but I think it's because if they did, they would be releasing evidence of what goes on in labs, and you're not allowed to know. Am I doing all right? Am I coming across nervous? I'm quite checking with you. Because I'm getting evil eyes from my wife at the back. Have I misread that? So, our induction into this was from a talk given in Bristol about Camp Beagle, which had just started. So we looked up how to get there, and first thing I noticed, being a bit of a techie, I did a street view down there. When you do the street view, the Google Street View, down as you get to the gates, you sort of you pan right to look at the gate, and the gate is blurred out. Don't know if anyone else has noticed this. So for that to be blurred out on Google Street View, that means they will have requested it. So this is the gate outside the big breeding facility, MBR Acres, which is in 19. So just a big quick survey. Who knows what MBR is? Right. Some of you don't know what MBR is. So MBR Acres is a breeding facility that breeds specifically beagles. They hold about 2,000 in there. It's an 8-acre site full of steel sheds. There's just caged wire mesh pens in rows. They're born in there for 20 weeks. They don't leave the pens. The only time they leave the pen is when they're going to be put into crates, stacked into the back of a van, driven to the lab. That's and then you can imagine what goes on there. But so that's their entire life. They literally never see the sky. They never touch grass. That's the reality of it. Another thing we saw was on the Google Maps was also, it said the road that it's on was down as an unnamed road. This might have changed recently, but a few years ago when we looked at this, it said unnamed road, but it's not an unnamed road. It's been the B1090 forever. It's been called Sawtree Way forever as well. So that's just a little measure for them to kind of hide themselves from public view. As the camp started, people started to find out about it. A lot of people were motivated to do their own investigation. People were submitting freedom of information requests, because in this country we have freedom of information, don't we, Sam? And glad to see you nodding. But so you can request information from the government. Correct me if I get this wrong here.
That's how we got the license.
Yeah, so you can request information that you would think the public would be allowed to know. So like how many animals are being bred, how many animals are used in animal testing, that kind of thing. You can ask about the licenses and that sort of thing. So, but it's a limited freedom. So quite often your request will just be point blank refused. And at other times it'll be heavily redacted. So you'll get the information and there'll be black bars across a lot of it. Usually it's the information that identifies the companies or corporations involved, and more kind of specific things like that. That's just an example of the secrecy. The legislation around it, which is quite big, which is called ASPA, it's actually written Animals Procedures Act, but it's got scientific in the middle. So it's got Animals Scientific, in brackets, Procedures Act. So this is about what you can do to animals on a scientific basis. So this is separate now. This is separate legislation about science. It's not about regular animal welfare. That's separate legislation, right?
Yeah,
so far, so good.
The Animal Welfare Act Welfare Act expressly does not apply to what happens in testing. That's governed by the Animal Scientific Procedures Act, which is what it is. Like, I'm not going to say too much. I'm in the middle of a trial about this. But yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, great. We'll go into that later. But and oddly, this whole business of animal testing, you would think might be governed by a body like DEFRA, if it still exists. Might have changed recently. But it's not. It's governed by the Home Office, and the Home Office govern things like national security and counter-terrorism, because they've got the secrecy and the powers, and it's that kind of vibe that goes on in the Home Office. They look at immigration and border control, and also manage animal research. Because it involves a lot of licensing and regulation and inspection, and it's quite heavy. So when things need to be really tight, it's Home Office that looks after that. And the reason is, the main reason for all the secrecy that they will give you is that this is in the public interest, that you're not allowed to know what goes on in labs. In the public interest. Basically means, I like to translate it as, you're going to lose your mind when you find out, and you're going to start doing crazy things like attacking private individuals who are related to animal testing. That's the truth of it, because that will happen. When people do know, that's what they're driven to do. That happens. So that's why. It's a big subject. There's science around it. There's morals and ethics around it. And I'm like, do we go? We're making this documentary. We're like, there's so many angles you can take. And like, how much weight do you give the scientific argument? How much time do you give the moral debate? And for me, when I'm in a decision like that, when I'm making a hard decision, for me, I usually use my own little rule, which is animals first. So personally, I would like to go along the moral and ethical side of it. Because with science, you can watch scientists from both sides arguing back and forth, and you can be there all day long. Scientifically, you can always justify something that you're doing. But morally, that's a whole different thing. And interestingly, because we've been looking at this lately, science tends to carve out morals and ethics and put that aside. Like, that's not science. That's not involved. We're not talking morals and ethics, because we're scientists, so we're doing science. Ethics is not about science. This is their take. Intellectual acrobatics. That's science. Moral debate. Interesting. There has been a win in the moral debate, which is great apes are safe from animal testing. You can't do any kind of invasive animal testing on great apes in the UK, point blank. And the same is the case around much of the world. Why then? It's not actually much to do with science. It's more to do with, you would think, I first thought it was about sentience. Because everyone knows they're quite close to humans. But it's not directly because of the sentience. It's because of, like, what it looks like to be doing something to someone who is very much like us. And it's more about image and politics and optics. And it came about in the 80s and 90s, I think. Don't forget, that was just after this period of Jane Goodall's amazing work, and which really affected public kind of understanding of primates. And then there was a political thing where they had to kind of draw the line on great apes. But it's interesting ground still. But wherever the grounds were, there's no reason why that can't be extended to all animals. Just a little extra. I did ask, because I interviewed a lifelong animal researcher who's such a fan of animal research. One of his roles is to speak up about animal research, and he does all the talks and that sort of thing.
Sorry, where did he do these talks?
He's from the University of Wisconsin in America. And I asked him, if animal testing had not been an option, then would we really be like far behind in terms of scientific progress and development? And I was really surprised, because he said, nah, not really. You know, that's his opinion, because he knows that, and we all know that you can, you know, the humans are really good at working stuff out when we really have to. And so easily there's ways around animal testing. Our journey. So yeah, we had our own. So we were vegan. We're still vegan, and again, we didn't really know much about animal testing. We came from vegetarianism. We were vegetarian, and then after some beating around the head by a vegan friend, we our eyes open and we became vegan. But still, like, you know, as a vegetarian, you think you're doing your bit, and then when you become a vegan, you're like, oh, I get it now, I'm vegan now, I'm properly done now, like, I'm complete. And then we started to do things like outreach, vegan outreach. We did AV cubes and that sort of thing in Bristol. And there was a Bristol Animal Rights March. So we went along to the march as well. Great, first, I think it was our first Animal Rights March, wasn't it? I think so. Anyway, at the march was a really inspiring talk by Mel Broughton. He's one of these activists who's been in the game for decades. And he gave this talk, and he was telling us about Camp Beagle, which had sprung up just 2 weeks prior. Camp Beagle is a full-time protest camp outside the facility. They've been there since June 21. And just the way he spoke, he's one of these guys that has a one-track mind for animal testing, and his passion and conviction is like second to none. It was his passion, his conviction that got us to go to Camp Beagle within a few days. So we arranged cover for the animals. We don't get away much. So we arranged cover for the animals and went down to Camp Beagle. It was our first time at a protest camp, but the energy there is, or was, you know, this is in the heyday in the beginning. There were loads of people there, and it was a real vortex of energy around people realizing what is going on, and because you can take a walk down the side of the facility and you can really smell these dogs strongly, and you can hear them, and everyone just wanted to do something about it. Camp Beagle is essentially what I call a surveillance operation. Surveillance is the state kind of watching down on the people and keeping an eye on everyone with CCTV and all that. Surveillance is the people from below looking upwards, looking up at the watchers. So when we start monitoring what's going on in the site and, you know, getting footage and photos of beagles in crates that otherwise people are not allowed to see, then that's the basic process. You're just exposing what's going on. And we started doing the leaflets and placards. We started designing them and doing the artwork because we had been doing that sort of thing with our kind of veganism thing. We had we were doing T-shirts and leaflets and like cards with vegan movies on and things like that. So I could do that, and so that's what I did for camp. And we did it in like quite a high volume, and we put a lot of our own money into it as well. We produced leaflets, placards, artwork. We also set up online ordering so people can order the leaflets online and get them delivered. And then I made a placard titled "Born on Death Row." That's what summed it up for me. And when I heard that term, I was like, yeah, that's like literally what's going on here. And it's great because it gives you that sense of what it is in one line. Death row is about, you know, that's about punishment, but they're born innocent. And they're born right there. This is death row. Like there's shots of like down the cage, and it looks just so much like the rows of down a prison corridor with cells either side. It's just like, yeah, that is it. So that's where the term was coined, basically. And obviously later when we decided to do a film, that was the title. Everybody wanted to know what was going on inside, which you couldn't see. Obviously, it's a heavily guarded site. There's full-time security guards, CCTV cameras everywhere. So one of the sheds is like about from here to the back wall. And it has a vent in there to allow air out, actually. They pump air in and it comes out there. So we had to get the camera in there. That was like the nearest thing. So we ended up using a fishing pole, 8 meters long, and a fishing pole is designed to kind of be very long, and also it's not kind of, be sort of too flexible. So it did the job perfectly. On the end, we put a tiny little spy camera, which I bought from eBay for 30 quid. And it was a little Wi-Fi camera. So from there to the phone, you could record an image. So we assembled the thing in the woods outside the thing, and it was 8 meters long. So we had backing it up and putting it in, waiting for a gap in the security guards. So to keep an eye on the security guards, we had a drone up as well to watch when they're coming around the corner. And also there were some people up the tree, just more for tradition than anything else. And so that was the first time the camera went inside, and that's when everyone saw the the conditions. It's basically, there's like dogs who are like, they're beagle colours, all organic and natural and alive and moving, and that you can see they're puppies. And for me, the best thing about a puppy is just how soft and floppy they feel. And so you see them, and then everything else is just steel, concrete, mesh. And there's rows of these pens. There's a row along here, and then there's like 4 rows across the warehouse, a big steel sort of warehouse situation. And from in there, you can see through the layers and layers of mesh, and layers of dogs and layers of mesh. And it's just like a forest of wire mesh. And that's the condition. And because the camp had been outside, literally monitoring with drones and everything, we can see they never leave. There is a play area right in the center of the site. That's never been used. And so they literally do not leave the pens. We know that. It's been monitored for 5 years now. Yeah, before fishing pole camera, there was tent pole camera, which is like the first attempt. So we improved that. And then we did some editing because we got the footage. We got about 20 minutes of footage altogether. But it was from a camera on the end of a pole, and it was all over the place. It was just spinning and shaky and upside down. So we obviously had to put this into a short film to release on the social. So it ended up being like about 8-minute film altogether, including some history about animal testing, what went on at Camp Beagle, how we got there, and the footage from inside. And John Curtin from Camp Beagle, he's like the spokesperson and kind of core energy of Camp Beagle. He came around ours for a week, and we did this editing. And it was the first time I'd edited a video, but I was working it out as I go along. Meanwhile, he's sitting next to me with a coffee, just telling me how on previous edits, the editors are amazingly fast, and they're just like, doing all this amazing, oh yeah. And I ended up editing that video. Looking back at it now, I did it all the long way around. I wasn't aware of all the little tips and tricks you can do with video editing, so it was like brute force. What's next? So there was talk of documentary, like an issue as controversial as this ought to have a documentary. And we approached Panorama while we were involved with Camp Beagle. And their basic line was, well, have you got any undercover lab footage? If you got that we could do an expose kind of thing and just put it through the mill. And because that's all they're interested in. Undercover lab footage in the UK, no. Beagles, no. You're not getting that. No one's got that. The last time that happened was in 1997 with the Channel 4 documentary, It's a Dog's Life. That's what kicked off that whole kind of force against hunting and life sciences. But I did an eerie thing where you can line up shots from the 1997 footage and our footage that we've got, and it's the same situation. You got the mesh pens in a concrete warehouse full of beagles, and nothing else has changed. There's been so much more scientific advancement. This process is just the same thing going round and round, over and over. So they weren't doing a documentary. We couldn't see anyone else doing a documentary. We do a lot of things ourselves. So enter DIY as a philosophy, and DIT, which is do it together. One of the many great pillars of punk ethos. I didn't know this. I learned this a couple of years ago. Punk has got a philosophy. And one of the things is about helping yourself. It's quite anarchist, I suppose. Help yourselves, help your community. That's the vibe. Any punks that we've come across have been really sound people and have been, willing to help, willing to share what they know. And I had I knew the brother of this philosophy, because there's the same principles in open source software. And my background is IT. I'm running Linux now. I haven't used Microsoft or Mac for decades. And that's the same thing. That's software which is made by the people for the people, so that we can have our own, we can keep our freedoms and liberties. That's what it's about. So I really dig that. So we decided we're going to make it ourselves, or at least we'll give it our best shot. Is everything all right, Chucky? I'm just checking with you.
Check the time.
Time. All right. I'll move along. And when we thought about it, we realized, well, actually, we might have most of what it takes to make a documentary in terms of our experience and what we knew, our access to the subject, which is one of the most important things when you're making a documentary. You must have access. So we've been involved in Camp Beagle. Like, we know the story, we know the people, we've got contacts, and we've got experience. So yeah, we've definitely got access. That's great. And we've got an animal sanctuary as well. So yeah, we're coming from the right place. We sent an email to Moby's agent just on a whim. And like, you couldn't believe it, he actually responded. This was back in 23. And the email was, Moby says that if you have a deck, he'd love to look at it, which was great. Just over a year later, I send them a link to the pitch deck. We didn't even know what a pitch deck was. Basically, literally, we got that email and we're like, what's a deck? We'll Google what a deck is. So it's it's basically a set of slides which outlines your vision for the documentary, which you haven't made yet. So, and then, yeah, one of the next sort of, apparently the next first thing you're supposed to do is make like a trailer for the video that you haven't made yet, for the, for the film you haven't made yet. So we finally went down and did it. We sent him the link. So a month later, we've been having slow emails with Moby's PA, not directly to Moby himself. And she comes back with great news. Moby is interested in doing the interview. Now it's getting really real, but like, we haven't even started yet. So this whole Moby thing kicked off far too early in the process. So next thing you know, we've got a date booked to interview Moby in LA. He's not happened to be in the UK. So in that whole year between, getting that first message and sending him the link, we were setting up all sorts of things in the background, setting up the website, socials, a company for the money to go through. We were a CIC, Bodadoc CIC, set up payment things, emails, contacts, cameras, editing software, blah, blah. And basically looking into all that, we were just getting more and more overwhelmed because there's obviously a lot more to making a film than we thought. So moving on to our first actual days of filming, which was another real milestone for us, because we didn't have any professional cameras, so we had to find videographers. Our first thing we wanted to film was Derailed, which is World Day for Animals in Laboratories. It's been running since the 70s, annual event. This year it was happening at Camp Beagle, so too good to miss. Two things coming together there. We booked videographers and a sound recordist. That was kind of okay, not too bad. Then we have to actually write Vox Pop questions, and Vox Pop, learn what Vox Pop is. Vox Pop comes from Latin. It means Vox, comes from Vox Populi. It means voice of the people. You see it a lot in documentaries where they shove a camera in someone's face on the street. And they go, oh, what do you think about this? And they go, oh, I don't know anything. That kind of thing. So, but it's really important to get voice of the people. They always do it because it's always current, and it shows opinions from people who know about it and people who don't know anything, and it's a good thing to do. So we had to write a shot list and actually really start thinking like filmmakers all of a sudden, but we just pull whatever we've got together and do it. And I ended up doing my first piece to camera on that day as well, and I'm really nervous about doing cameras. And that kind of thing, but this just throwing ourselves in the deep end was really good, and we keep doing it. We'll skip how it happened. We're running out of time. Our first creative clip as well, which we did. We made up this clip where we thought, yeah, we know a violinist, and she's a real animal lover, and she supports the campaign. And we had a vision for this shot that we wanted to take outside of her playing the violin, with the sheds one side and the open fields the other side that the dogs are never going to see. It was just a really good, personally rewarding thing because we had that vision. We went and did it, and it came out exactly how I wanted it to be, and it was perfect. It was really good for self-confidence. Petition debate.
getting shorter time.
Yeah, I know. So petition debate was outside. Another film, a day of filming. Basically, we were doing vox pops outside there. It's just a great thing. But we had the important thing is we had our first key moment there of watching playback of stuff that we had recorded. With professional cameras, and when you see that, it's just like, that's an amazing feeling. Like, yeah, this is the first actual piece of our documentary that we're seeing right in front of us. So that was great. The trip to the US then. I've seen a stand-up comedian, he's an American guy, and he plays a dumb American. And he has this line where he goes, "America is the greatest country in the United States." It's kind of sums up that sort of thing, but it was great. We had a great welcome, because when we were setting up going there, Beagle Freedom Project offered to put us up for the whole 3 weeks that we were going to be there, which is great. And she also put us in touch with a videographer who was going to do all the filming for us. That's great, like, you know, major things sorted. This story's got to be in there, but we're not running out of time, are we? We've got a few minutes.
Yeah,
We are, right? Do we do the Beagle story?
in the airport.
Yes. All right, so we were land in LA. See how
Look like idiots. But
see how quick we can do this. We got off the plane, so we're in between like aircraft and passport control, and we're walking along, all sort of stressed and excited. At the time, I'm getting a bit nervous about our visa kind of situation. We're coming on a tourist visa. We're actually making a film, kind of challenging government practices. And looking how I look, and name's Ahmed. It's not good. It's not good. And so we're walking along, and we saw this. We turned the corner. We see this big poster with a beagle on it. I was like, wow, how amazing! We're coming to this whole thing about beagles, and there's a beagle. So. Took a snapshot, we carried on, then we go to passport control. There's a huge queue. It's like, you know, we're in there for like an hour and a half just to get to passport control. The whole time I'm getting wound up. I'm thinking, I'm preparing my questions, my answers. I've got a place to stay, how long we're here for, when's our return flight. Those questions are nailed. If we get that, it'll be fine. We get to the desk. These people are behind the desk are looking pretty serious. Not your friendly Californians I was expecting. And I was thinking, just the standard questions, please. Just the standard questions. And she comes with the standard questions. I'm like, fine, we go through. Then comes the non-standard question. I've gone, no, she's gone off piste. And she goes, do you have any snacks? And I'm like, of course I got snacks. We're vegan. We don't go anywhere without snacks. But what's the right answer here? Why she asked me about snacks? Something must be wrong. And I can't hesitate with this question. This is a simple question. Do you have any snacks? And we're like, yes, we got snacks. And then she says, do you have any fruit? I'm like, and then I realised what's going on. So we got fruit. Yes, we got fruit. We got loads of fruit. And then I realised what the beagle was about. Because this actual beagle comes around the corner. And he's accompanied by a customs officer.
oh God.
And that beagle poster, I didn't see the other half of it, but it had loads of other items which you're not supposed to bring through. That beagle's very good at sniffing out. So we got carted off. And I'm like, no, it's nasty. We want deeper questioning about what you're doing here. And all that. So we got carted off into another room with a beagle, 2 customs officers. The beagle sniffing around the bags. He's like, come on, let's have it. We gave him the fruit from the bag, and he took it. And he was like, okay, have you got anything else in any of the other bags? And I'm like, well, without like getting it all out, I can't really be sure. But I was like, nah, we haven't got anything in the other bags. So then they let us off, but it was just bizarre seeing this actual beagle. Beagle's on our mind the whole time, and seeing this actual like working beagle, who'd be, you know, he does like day shifts at the airport, and then probably goes to kennels overnight. But that was bizarre, so they let us free. We come out the other side feeling a bit relieved. And there's another beagle out, another like customs beagle with the customs guy. And I was like, oh, we'll have a go with this one. We'll have to give him a stroke in the cutter because we're clear now. And it's a weird thing that happened. We kind of started veering towards the beagle, and the beagle was like, like avoiding us. And then, until we got back to the hotel, we unpacked our stuff properly. We had a whole other layer of fruit underneath the one that we had there. So that's.
The beagle's on our side on that.
Yeah, I was definitely giving our signals. I don't do it. You got more fruit in that bag. Just keep walking. That's the beagle story. Where are we? That was it. No, off-piste, don't go off-piste. So we had a really good plan, clear plan. Week 1, settle in, get over jet lag, do our multicam edit, which of my sanctuary talk, which I gave at Camp Out. That's a whole other thing. So we did that. So week 2 was going to be do some interviewing, interview Shannon, film rescue Beagles and their owners, film the animal testing laboratory turned into a sanctuary, which is what BFP have basically done. It's a 30-acre site, loads going on there. And week 3 was going to be to get ready for basically filming Moby. So that was a great thing, and that was all come through BFP. She had provided 3 weeks accommodation, and she had provided this videographer. And we were struck by a dose of life. And the reason this is in there, normally I wouldn't mention this, but basically, this is one of the things you have to deal with as a filmmaker. Things are changing all the time, and you kind of have to be ready for it. We inadvertently caused offence, and there was a relationship breakdown. And suddenly we had no accommodation, no videographer, and Moby to interview. Priority was accommodation, so we had to find new accommodation. So we used booking.com. We're on booking.com ourselves because you have to be, because they own everything, the whole booking thing. We know what we're doing when it comes to booking places online and making sure it's right and you're not going to have any headache. So we booked this place. It was an apartment, right price, not too cheap and dodgy, not too much and can't afford. So it was just right. Things took a slide after we booked that property. We got a message saying suddenly it's a slightly different property address. And then I'm getting WhatsApp messages from the person. Now at this point, I should know, okay, cut this is going wrong, book somewhere else. And then I'm opening a link to a Google photo album of an apartment. Clearly we've gone off booking.com, we've gone off platform now, this is looking a bit shady. At one place, I did phone them, and I have to phone the landline number on there to kind of ask a question, and it comes up with a location, which is Compton. We're not staying in Compton, we're staying by the marina. This is looking a bit dodgy. And then you get a message from this Karen who's like, meet me at the car park, and we can you pay us the money, and then I'll take you to your apartment. It was that sort of situation, looking a bit shady. But anyway, that worked out okay. We had to get out the positive mental attitude because we were in a bit of a pickle. And as soon as we did that, the universe kind of took over. We started by phoning a friend who was Alka from PETA, who's been really helpful, really accommodating. She doesn't really know us, but she's just been like, yeah, I'll do, anything you can, I'll help you. And she really believes in what we're doing. We had a chat, and she told us about Rebecca Robinson, who is leading a campaign called Dane for Dogs, who are targeting a place called Ridgeland Farms, which is a very similar thing to Marshall Bioresources, the MBR site in the UK. They're doing the same thing, breeding beagles. And she said she's only a 6-hour drive upstate to go and see her. And we've got a hire car. It's the first time I've driven in America. And I was like, okay. Next morning, 6 o'clock, we're going down the interstate. And so we got a great interview from her. And she's doing a really similar thing to what's been going on here, which is great. And we had random replies from a couple of people that we've just been sending messages to. One was Jane from Unchained TV. She's an old dog, but she's really well connected. She's been in the game ages. She's been doing she's a journalist, so she does unchainedtv.com, where she does live kind of newsy broadcast things all about veganism and animal testing and that sort of thing. She turned out to be in the same neighborhood. We hooked up with her. Otis, the handsome hound. Don't know if anyone follows him on Instagram. Check that out. He's an ex-laboratory beagle. He's really on board as well. We did Venice Beach Vox Pops. That was really had to push ourselves to do that because that was quite a scary thing to do. Really interesting characters at Venice Beach Skate Park because it's a place where people kind of hang out and there's not much else going on, and you get that kind of person. But and they're in that kind of mode where everyone's pretty relaxed. One of them keeps coming back to me. It was a girl. We call her Tattoo Girl. We didn't get her name, and she says, we talked about the subject. She says, no, just don't do this to dogs. And that keeps coming back to me because it's just it just sums it up to me. That's why at times I'm reluctant to go down scientific debate because that's not what it's about. It's like, that's what it is. Don't do this to dogs. That's where it should be. And another guy was Muscle Man. I didn't get his name either, but he distracted by the muscles. And he said he didn't know anything about it either. But just like a minute in, he's like, "What does this have to do with dogs?" And like again, it just sums it up. Like, it's ridiculous. Dogs are involved in this business. Like, it just shouldn't be happening. And then there was the Moby interview. Which was, oh no, I'm really running out of time.
Got a few minutes.
Got a few minutes, okay. The Moby interview.
Can't you show it to us?
That's the photo of it. There's a little clip.
All the time, and we're waiting to see.
Yeah, oh sorry, I should have said it.
Instagram. It's in my Instagram.
I should have said at the top, but we haven't got any other slides. But yeah, if you follow our website, you can see clips of the interview there. We're obviously saving the bulk of that for the documentary, but we have released a little bit of it. That was, we were obviously really nervous going in, and we had hired a professional crew because obviously our videographer had fallen through. So then we had to go to plan B, which was a more expensive, like, professional crew, but they were available, and they turned out to be really sound guys who came and literally sweated and delivered to get this interview. So that's a professionally recorded 1-hour interview with Moby. You can see the guys there. So yeah, Moby was just like, he was straight on. He was talking about film distribution, because he's got a little production company too, and he's been supporting films, making documentaries, and he was talking about how the scene is completely changing, and you've got to really think outside the box if you want your film to get reach, because there's just so much of it, and there's so much control by a few parties. So it's that situation which is getting very familiar. But he really delivered. The way I had it, I didn't set it up like a chat. I had written questions because I'd been thinking hard about what things do we want to hear from Moby. So I wrote the questions like that and gave him the question. He just straight away, really professional, eloquent, philosophical, deep, really good answers every time straight away. It was just off the bat for him each time. And we had a bit of a chat afterwards. Again about production quality, and he was saying, because I was saying, how high does production quality need to be, because you can take it really far, and he was like, yeah, you need to do everything you can to get the best quality production that you can. That's like the whole thing, starting from your lights and camera and mics to everything that you do that goes into a film. Make it the best you can. You got to do that. So yeah, amazing, key moment for us, obviously, getting that Moby interview. That's making it definitely real. We do I'm getting more easy to call myself a filmmaker now. This week then, we've been to Openness Awards for Animal Research, which is basically, vivisectors and animal testing people patting each other on the back for the work they're doing. This is an invite-only event, and I had an hour and 40 minutes Zoom with Chris McGee, who's from Understanding Animal Research. And I was playing the same level-headed kind of journalist type, and he kind of let us come to the event. It was weird because it was kind of what you expected it to be. But I think these people, that's just like the first thing we've been to, the first evening. I feel they do genuinely believe what they say and what they think about animal testing. They believe it because they've been conditioned into that culture, and it's a rich culture with history, and they have key people that they look up to in this, and it's got all the richness of any other kind of that sort of cultural thing, so. But there was that, and this is all this week. That was that, and then we're setting up doing this talk, and then we're off to Camp Beagle tomorrow. We're going to interview Mel Broughton again there, get some more shots around camp, talk to people there. Next day, Cambridge to interview some animal rising activists who are obviously on trial for their open rescue of beagles. And that's where we're up to today. That's me done. This is. Thanks very much. If anyone's got quick questions.
Well, when's the film going to be ready?
not answering that. When you look at films, films like, there's no telling how long a film's going to end up taking. I don't want it to take long because there's a sense of urgency here. Like we're thinking another 2 years. That's kind of what we've got in mind. Who knows what's going to happen? But anyway, yeah, you got a question, sir?
Yeah, so firstly, thank you for an incredible talk. I think you should give yourself more credit than you did at the start for your ability. Brilliant.
Thanks very much, mate.
Obviously, I'll see you at court on Monday. There's something I want to speak to you, not in front of people about, which just popped up, but a question I can properly, I think, ask her. I've spent the last week, in fact, months, seeing a lot of footage, including the footage we played in court this week, just security guard footage from inside
The breeding facility,
the sort of things that you've described. I think it's one thing when you're in work mode. Then we were driving here this morning and we passed a beagle. I don't cry very often, but it was just a beagle on a walk and it was welling up. I'm not sure quite what it was, but I think it's sort of a compassion thing. I mean, how do you deal, when you're dealing with this all the time, with the emotions that it brings up?
We've got dogs.
Yeah.
We got dogs. That's probably, and it does get. You feel it building up. And you just like, your body will just do its natural thing, and you'll just have to shut off for a while or go and do something else. But yeah, it obviously it builds up when we do think about it. And our son especially, it was like, you're facing this stuff all the time, but. Yeah, it does both ways, especially having dogs as well. But yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, before I forget.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because you presumably want to be in the public gallery on Monday.
Yeah.
If you might have someone who can. One of the points the prosecution were cross-examining on last week is they were suggesting to even Lazarus, the first defendant, to give evidence that it is Phil Oates, who are all